Welcome to the Draftkings Week 2 main slate lineup builder, where I'm going to go position by position and talk about who I am going to have as a core play, who's going to be a GPP play for me as a contrarian, and who else will be in my player pool for this week. Starting off at the quarterback position, core plays for me, Bo Pribula from Missouri at 6,100 projects super well. I think he's going to be very popular. Sawyer Robertson at 7,700 projects well as well. I like the game environment there. So he is a core play. And lastly, it's to be determined as to whether this will be a core play or not. If Bayron Morton starts for Texas Tech, it is not a core play for me. If Will Hammond starts and Bayron Morton's out, because Bayron Morton's dealing with a shin injury or a lower leg issue, if he's out, Will Hammond is a core play for me. If Bayron Morton plays, I might take a shot or two on a text on Bayron, but he's definitely not a core play. GPP wise, contrarian, I would say Arch Manning is a contrarian play for me. I will want to have some shots. I think that Sark is going to want to prove a point by getting Arch 300 yards, multiple, probably 2 to at worst 3 touchdowns in this game. He's 9,600. I think he comes in lower owned than he should off of the back of that performance. And there's plenty of salary to go around to be able to build that way. What I'll do is let's build a Arch team on this example when we go through this, showing that it's possible. Other contrarian play for me, Jalen Daniels. With all that ownership going to Pribula, I don't think people are going to want to play Daniels. Daniels at 6,600 shows he's really healthy the first 2 weeks of the season, granted in somewhat cupcake matchups. Missouri, much tougher defense. I think he comes in at very low ownership. I don't mind taking shots there as a GPP contrarian play to get away from the chalk of Pribula. Other guys in the player pool for me, Kevin Jennings at 8K. He projects extremely well for SMU. I think he may end up being very popular. I don't mind going there at all. I will go there plenty. I'm just going to have a good bit of Sawyer Robertson, but I think a Jennings Pribula pairing with some contrarian. I'll talk about the contrarian running back in a minute. CJ Bailey for NC State at 7K is in my pool. DJ Lagway at 7,200. I don't have issues with playing. They should be able to kind of get it however they want. So I'm going to lean in a little bit more to the running back wise than I will play Lagway. But having shares of Lagway, nothing wrong with that. I think he's in play for sure. Austin Simmons for Ole Miss at 7,300. I don't mind taking shots on him. Similarly, though, I prefer to lean into the run game there if I'm building 1 or 2 lineups. Steve Angeli for Syracuse at 6,800 is in the pool. Luke Altmaier and Darian Mensah at 64 and 62, both in the pool. And one guy that, if I can get full clearance on him, he would be a potential for a core play, but I'll have to wait and see, is Chandler Morris with the AC joint injury. Tony Elliott's saying he's going to play. He's healthy, but 6,300 for him in that NC State matchup would make him very interesting. I think they're going to struggle to run the football against NC State. He is fairly mobile. Caton Hauser had a decent game against NC State here. And I think Chandler Morris is definitely in play. If we kind of just get word that he's going to start and he's good to go, but I'm still slightly worried that one hit or one sack or Dave Doran's team gets home and that AC joint gets aggravated and he's out. So I don't want to have too much exposure to Morris with the increased risk that he brings. So let's throw in. We'll figure out the superflex later. Superflex needs to be a quarterback. Make sure it's a quarterback. Do not play anybody that's not a quarterback at your superflex. Running back wise, core plays for me this week. Hollywood Smothers at 6,500 for NC State is 100% a core play. There's 4 very good running backs, so you're going to have a lot of these guys. Plus, there's some other guys that I like. Core play number 2, Yassine Willis, Syracuse, 6,300. You're going to see a theme with these guys that I want to play here. They all get a ton of work. They are the workhorse backs for these backfields, and that's why I want to play these guys. So Yassine Willis, 6,300, very much so in play, like him a good bit. Number 3, Jaden Baugh, Florida, 6,200. He gets a ton of work. He gets a good amount of work. Jacoby Jackson is going to play some for this roster. He will mix and match in. Baugh is clearly the most talented guy facing off South Florida. I know South Florida played fairly decently against Boise against the run. I think Baugh is a completely different animal. He's probably my top back in the SEC. So at 6,200, I will buy into that. And then number 3, from a core perspective at run, or number 4 at quarter from a core running back plays. Keywan Lacey from Ole Miss. He got all the run. I love this play against Kentucky. They're going to be out to prove a point against Kentucky. And I have no issues playing him whatsoever at this limited price tag of 5,300. All of these guys are underpriced for their roles in this offense. And the 4th guy you can slap in there, or 5th guy as a core play. I have a lot of core plays this week because a lot of guys are underpriced. Terrell Washington Jr. from Iowa at 3,100. He's not the most exciting one of the options in that backfield for me, but 3,100, he's going to get the bulk of the work against the Iowa State. I like him. He's a good projected play. I will play a good bit of him. This may end up being a lineup that you need to get him in, but there's so much value at wide receiver that probably you don't. But we'll see. We might end up swapping one of these guys to Terrell Washington. GPP plays at wide receiver or at running back. Bryson Washington from Baylor at 8,900. I love taking shots here. I don't think people are going to want to pay for him. They'll prefer Nick Singleton. They'll prefer some other guys in that upper range. They're going to kind of avoid Bryson Washington because he didn't play very well against Auburn last week. But he has a proven track record. SMU, not as good of a defense as Auburn, in my opinion. And the matchup doesn't look good on paper, so people will shy away from him. I've seen him break too many slates before. So any slate that I'm going to play a good bit of Sawyer Robertson, I need to have some Bryson Washington coming back on other teams. He's perfect to pair with Kevin Jennings. Washington has broken slates on me before where I went heavy on Sawyer Robertson and Washington ended up with 5 touchdowns and just absolutely destroyed me. So rule of playing Sawyer Robertson is if you are, play Bryson Washington some because he can kill your day. Ahmad Hardy from Missouri at 7K. With all the Pribula chalk, he's a GPP guy for me. I like the ability of him. He got a ton of work. He didn't start last week. Jamal Roberts did. Doesn't bother me one bit. Super talented back who came over from Louisiana Monroe. He doesn't project extremely well. I think Kansas is being overvalued from the running, defensive standpoint, given what they faced so far this year. Hardy, I like. I think he gets the bulk of the work. If you want to take shots, he will be a highly under-owned play and is a good GPP target in this situation. Lastly, Xavier Williams from Iowa at 3K. He's definitely a pivot off of Washington. I think Washington hits more ownership because of all the work he got last week. Maybe Williams gets a ton because of the because of how explosive he was last week. But with Kamari Moulton out, I think Williams starts betting. We still have to start betting on the talent. He's a freshman, hasn't gotten a ton of work yet, no track record. I like taking GPP shots on him, and I would mix and match my Iowa guys between Washington and Williams, not knowing which one's going to get the bulk of the work. So other guys in my pool, CJ Baxter at 6,400. He looked great last week compared to what I expected. He's definitely a very big pivot off of the other guys in that range because your Smothers, Willis, and Baugh are going to soak up all the ownership there. They're such a prohibitive favorite that if Arch does not get the bulk of the work, I could definitely see Baxter finding pay dirt twice and paying off big time at 6,400. And you're really just looking for him to outscore the other three in that range. Otherwise, Aiden Lawfery from Illinois at 4,200. He's the more explosive of the two. I would keep him and Caden Fagan at 5,200 in my pool. I would prefer to play Lawfery, take the $1,000 savings, and say that I'm going to take the more explosive guy who can rip one off, but he's in the pool. Noah Whittington from Oregon at 5,500. He's definitely in the pool because of the Mekhi Hughes no-show from last week. I know 11 guys got carries. I think they try to put up more points, or the first team is out there a little bit more against Oklahoma State. I don't mind taking shots on Whittington. He's in the pool. I'll have some of him. Cam Edwards from UConn at 5,900. More of a home run hitting back, but he has the capability. So if I'm going to take a shot there, I don't mind it for UConn trying to be maybe a potential bring back against that Syracuse offense. Jamari Taylor from Virginia at 4,300 is in the pool. Just in case I want to take a shot there. He's the guy. The two of these guys are the last guys in my pool that maybe or maybe not don't get played. Seth McGowan being the other from Kentucky at 3,400. It's one of those situations where if I'm going down to McGowan against Ole Miss, he's explosive, so that's why I kind of want to keep him in the pool. If I'm running 20 entries, then yeah, I think you need to have some McGowan for that fact. And just in case that Iowa run offense just struggles, maybe McGowan can outscore. He's kind of a pivot option off of that Iowa value at that lower 3K range. And then Daniel Highshaw for Kansas at 5,100. I like him. If LaShawn Williams is out, which I don't think he will be, I think LaShawn Williams is going to play. I like Highshaw, though, as a guy who's capable out of the backfield catching passes and running the football. 5,100, solid price tag. He's definitely the pivot option off of Kejuan Lacey in that price range. So looking at the wide receivers, which I may end up pivoting to one of the Iowa guys here, but we'll get there. Wide receiver wise, core plays. I've got 5 guys that are core for me. Hank Beatty from Illinois at 3,800. It's too cheap of a price tag for what should be the number one wide receiver for Illinois. Duke, not an easy matchup, but I like the price tag, and it's undeniable there. Most of my core plays are going to be cheap guys this week, and then that way it'll allow you to mix and match some of the top end. Cole Wilson from Baylor checks in as the number 2, 4,600. Also, great price tag. He played fabulous last week. We need shots on that game. He comes over from Texas State. Very accomplished wide receiver there. I think he's a guy that you want to plug and play. Emmanuel Henderson at 5,300 for Kansas is a core option for me. I hyped him week 1. I know he didn't perform up to expectation because Cam Pickett kind of got the touchdowns. Week 2, we kind of saw what he could do. He's led the team in routes. He leads it in targets. He's going to end up leading it in touchdowns. Chalk him in. He is a core play for me. Core play number 4 at wide receiver is Cam Ross for Virginia at 3,500. Does my opinion change if we find out that maybe the injury is a little more serious for Chandler Morris? Maybe. But Cam Ross, very talented wide receiver, came over from James Madison. He was definitely the number one in this offense last week. But we'll talk about the other guy here in a minute. And then finally, core play number 5 for me. I'm going to tout him. He's the third highest projected wide receiver on his own team. But I'm going to take shots, and I'm planting my flag on Cooper Barkate for Duke. I can't say enough good things about him. 4,900. I just love the kid. So I'm going to take plenty of shots there. I struggle not to. So I'm going there. 4,900 is too cheap of a price tag. I think he's the most talented wide receiver in that room. It's not particularly close for me. I think it's going to take some time for the projection system and the pricing to catch up with his talent level. The elephant in the room, I'm just going to go ahead and address it now, is UConn wide receiver Skylar Bell, who projects very well. He left the game in the second quarter last week injured. So let's go to him at 5,700. He's kind of the elephant here. So he doesn't have an injury tag. He had 4 catches, 135 yards, 2 touchdowns last week. But what's not being told is he left in the second quarter, late in the second quarter last week for half, went to the locker room, and after halftime came out with no pads on and nothing else. And everybody's kind of been mum's the word on this thing. I don't trust that he's healthy. So I've got an injury tag on him. I don't trust Jim Mora to tell me that he's healthy or not. So I would be in a void on anything less than 20 entry max. Just because I don't know where his health is. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. All right, GPP contrarian shots here at wide receiver. Number 1 off the board. If I'm putting Arch Manning in, I'm putting Ryan Wingo in. Wingo's the clear number 1 on this roster. We know that. We guarantee that. Is he priced up a little bit more than I would love? Yes, but that makes him the GPP shot. There's a reason why he's there. So I have no issues playing Ryan Wingo at 7,300 all day as long as I'm playing Arch or taking shots on Wingo. I don't have issues there. I think there's salary to burn this week. I prefer these higher end backs, so it puts you in a little bit of an odd situation where you're going to end up paying down a little more at wide receiver. Otherwise, Trell Harris from Virginia. If everybody's going Cam Ross, nobody's going to be dumb enough to play 2 Virginia wideouts, even with Chandler Morris. Everybody's going to be on Ross. I think you pivot to Trell Harris at 5,600. That's your pivot off of the chalk of Cam Ross. He's the more big play option, in my opinion. The true number 1 in the long run this season will be Trell Harris. Cam Ross, though, glaring value this week. Kevin Coleman from Missouri at 6,100. I think everybody's going to play Pribula naked. And if they don't, they're going to play Marquise Johnson with him at 5,700. I'm going to pivot to Coleman. Johnson operates with a huge average depth of target in the 20s last week. Coleman's your slot guy. He's going to lead the team in targets. I prefer that at 6,100 to the big play capability of Marquise Johnson because I don't think big plays are going to be as readily available against Kansas. Give me Kevin Coleman at 6,100 to pair with Bo Pribula as a GPP pivot play because I think you should or can play Pribula with his legs naked, making Coleman more of a GPP like pivot lower owned option. Next guy on the list, I'm going to play this, and actually I do have a lineup with Pribula stacked with Coleman and Sawyer Robertson stacked with what I believe will be his number 1 option, a guy that I've seen score 3 touchdowns from Sawyer Robertson, break a slate. It's Josh Cameron for Baylor at 6K. given that Cole Wilson is 4,600 and Michael Trigg is 4,300, and you got Ashton Hawkins hanging out down there, I don't think people are going to play Josh Cameron from Baylor at 6K. I understand why you wouldn't. I just think that it's very capable we get a Sawyer Robertson 4-touchdown game, and 3 of them go to Josh Cameron. Cole Wilson just kind of catches some short area targets, and Michael Trigg maybe catches a touchdown. Sawyer Robertson runs a touchdown in, and you end up with an optimal Josh Cameron at 6K that nobody sees coming. So it's a pivot play for me because I think everybody's going to go to Wilson, and I think Wilson's a very viable option here for sure. Next pivot, GPP-wise, one of my favorite players is Justin Bowick from Illinois at 3,600. He's a big red zone target for the Illini at 6'4". He's a clear pivot off of Hank Beatty. He's 200 less, projects far worse. I like Bowick to be one of the guys that comes in towards the red zone. And at 3,600, you give me 1 touchdown, 2 catches, 24 yards. That's 4.4 with a touchdown. That's 10.4. That's right at value to get you 3x. I think he can do better than that. And if he scores twice, you're cooking with gas there. This is the GPP play of all GPP plays. He's overpriced at 6,600. He's playing on a team that should score a ton of points in Oregon. Give me DeCorian Moore if you really want to go off the reservation. I think his ownership's very low. He's uber talented. This game should be closer than last week's, where they kind of have to play a little bit different. I think they try to get DeCorian Moore going. I'm willing to take a shot or 2 here. This is nothing we're playing a lot of, but he's a guy that I think you can take a shot or 2 to get very different from the field with DeCorian Moore. He's definitely the one I like the least out of that bunch, though. Other guys in the player pool, Jonte Cook from Syracuse at 6,100. He's the clear top option in that pass offense for me. I'm going to stay away from Daryl Gill for right now. Marquise Johnson in the pool for Missouri at 5,700. I think more people flock to him than Coleman. I prefer Coleman personally. Kyron Hudson from Penn State at 4,200. Hard to kind of deny what he did last week. I don't love wide routes in a blowout situation, in a blowout game like that, but I'll keep him in the pool in case I'm floating around that $4,200 mark and I want to make a little something different happen there. Cam Pickett at 5K for Kansas should be in the pool. He's probably the pivot off of Emmanuel Henderson if you wanted to go there. I'll keep him in the pool. I don't know that I end up on that, though. Samir Hagans from Duke at 4,300. I don't hate it. Quayshawn Brown, similarly, don't hate it, but I want to get to Barcate over the other 2 options. Wesley Grimes for NC State at 4,700 needs to be in the pool. Not the biggest fan of him after coming over from Wake Forest, but he operated as the clear top pass catching option for NC State, projects well, so I'll keep him in the pool in case I want to get there. Harrison Wallace operated as number 1 for Ole Miss last week. I don't know that I get there at 4,900. He's priced very appropriately to be willing to take shots. I don't trust Caden Lee right now. I don't particularly want to trust any wide receiver for Ole Miss right now. Daquan Wright is questionable. If Daquan Wright's out, Caleb Odom definitely needs to be in the pool at that point, but we're going to have to wait and see on Daquan Wright, and I doubt that they give out anything. Danny Scudero from San Jose State, 5,600, probably on the back end of my pool. Don't know that I get there, but he has the capability to be able to catch 8 to 10 balls in this game. Michael Trigg from Baylor at 4,300 had a ton of targets last week. I think he needs to be in your pool if you want to get off of Cole Wilson. I think he does actually see a decent amount of ownership. I like Cole Wilson. I like Josh Cameron a little bit more, but maybe I end up on some Michael Trigg. SMU is interesting. So if you're trying to play that bring back game, I don't want to play their running backs. I'm going to have to play them through their pass game. Romello Brinson operated as the one. Jordan Hudson is out or not going to play. He's reportedly got a longer-term injury. Nothing new for him. He never shows up in a year. Romello Brinson should be the number one pass-catching option at 4,800, good price tag. I'll have some shots there. Kayshawn Singleton for South Florida is the clear number one option. They're going to be playing from behind. 5,100. I don't hate that price tag. I'm willing to take shots there. RJ Maryland for SMU. I think he shows up in big games. 5K, good price tag. I personally like him as a bring back in that SMU game. I've kind of debated that one between Brinson, Maryland, and then there's one other guy we're going to get to in a second. If you want to play a guy with Rocco Becht, which I don't think I'm going to end up getting here, the clear top option is Ben Bramer for Iowa State at 3,900. If you think that their run game just stinks or isn't going to be able to get going against this Iowa defense and they're going to need to be able to throw it, I think that they feature the tight ends this week with Ben Bramer being my favorite. He's much more explosive than Gabe Burkle. So if you noticed, I haven't talked about Eugene Wilson. I think he's by far the most talented pass catcher for Florida. If I'm going to pair Lagway with a wide receiver, it's going to be Vernell Brown at 3,400. I'm willing to take shots on Vernell Brown. He's explosive, especially if we get word that Dallas Wilson's still out, that other guys are still missing from that receiving core. Vernell Brown operated with the ones last week. So I'm willing to take shots on Vernell Brown. Is he my favorite play? Probably not, because there's a ton of value right here. But I don't mind taking shots, especially if I'm playing Lagway. I would like to get some Vernell Brown as the explosive option versus the short area target that's double the price in Eugene Wilson. The last SMU guy is interesting. It's Jalen Cooper. He's your 3K crapper of the week. He's $3,000. SMU, when Hudson went out, Cooper took over that role in that spot. I think he now gets the start. I will take shots on Jalen Cooper at 3K. You got Josh Allen. You want double stack Keon and Shakir. Myers and Ollie Gordon. You playing DFS, Kyle, this week? It depends what you're in. Because if you're playing season long, it'll come down to who's playing for with Ollie. But it depends on a lot of factors there. I don't mind taking shots, though, on double stacks, even in season long, especially if your payout structure, like we used to do a weekly payout structure. Last wide receiver in the pool, Parker Livingstone for 3,500 from Texas, Arch Manning's roommate. I think you can take shots there. I have no issues taking him, even in this lineup. If you wanted to take out Cam Ross and play Livingstone, I don't want to double stack any of these quarterbacks this week. The game environments just aren't high enough for me. Livingstone, though, could easily catch 2 touchdowns. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. So let's just say, I mean, this is fairly easy here. So let's just slap in. You could go Angeli, but I would prefer to stack Angeli because he's going to have to throw a ton of touchdowns. Let's go contrarian. So let's just say, let's say Chandler Morris is freaking healthy. So there you go. You can get Chandler Morris in there. Pair him with Cam Ross if you wanted to. But you can do any number of things. Even if you wanted to get to a Sawyer Robertson, you could come off of a Keywan Lacey. You can change out Cole Wilson, whatever. Like there's so many ways to play this and be able to get where you want to be. Actually, hang on. Let's do this. Let's do, let's come off of Smothers. Let's go with the Iowa back. So I'm just going to show you that you can get, let's go Terrell Washington. So let's go Terrell Washington. So then we got our 3 more workhorse style backs. And then I'm trying to see if I can make that work. 26. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's tons of salary. I mean, look at this. You got tons of salary this week. Just buku salary. You can get Josh Cameron in there. You can even go up. Heck, you can double stack at that point. Like if you want to. That's crazy. You can go up from Kewan Lacey. I mean, even then, yeah, you can go up from Kewan Lacey and go right back to Smothers if you want. Like, it's so easy to build this week. You can build just about anything you want. It'll be interesting to see. Keep an eye on the injury notes. Like I said, Skylar Bell, if something comes out, but I would avoid a little bit because I think he's going to be secretive there. And then keep an eye on Chandler Morris and Bayron Morton. Bayron Morton's going to be a linchpin question mark for me. If he's going to play, which I'm kind of hearing that they're leaning to that. If he is going to play, then Will Hammond's off the table. If he doesn't play, Will Hammond immediately becomes a top 3 quarterback option for me with Sawyer Robertson, Bro Perubula, with Kevin Jennings not far behind. All right, so I will be back tomorrow. I'm going to try to build some lineups now, and we will discuss the Fanduel slate, and I'll break down my player pool for that, and I'm going to work on projections for that now. So I will see you all then. Goodbye.